then I'll just mention one more thing as I see Katie's on now. So I think we've got everybody, is that I'll ask you to hold all your questions until the end. And so at that point, we'll be able to farm out the most appropriate person to take your question. So again, if you are able to raise your hand on the left side just to signal to me that you do have a question. If not, the chat, you're able to write a question in there. And if that doesn't work, you all have both of my cell phone numbers, so feel free to send me a text and I will make sure that we're able to get your questions answered. So at this point, I'm going to get us on Facebook Live, and then Mayor, I will introduce you in just a second.
I did on my just like a
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. This is with the City of Duluth is conducting a press conference today on some updates that we have on COVID-19. And so Mayor Larson, I'll introduce her in a second. Just for everyone in the public that's watching right now, I just wanted to let you all know we are conducting this on a WebEx call. And so the media will have an opportunity at the end of all of our different announcements to ask questions. If you have a question as a resident, please send us an email at info@duluthmn.gov so that we're able to get back to you formally. Certainly are expecting to have comments throughout the news conference. So while you're doing that, we will get back to you as soon as we are able. And so with that, wanted to introduce Mayor Larson to get us started today. So 1 second, Mayor Larson, and I will have you pop up. And I am unmuting you.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Think we're ready?
Yes, minus, sorry, one thing is that we do have Mayor Larson, who's obviously able to talk today with us. We also have additional speakers joining her on the call, our CAO, Noah Shuckman, Chris Fleach, who's our Director of Planning and Economic Development, Jim Benning, who's our Director of Public Works and Utilities, Jim Philby Williams, who's our Director of Parks, Properties, and Libraries, and Elena Fauché, who's our Workforce Development Director. So we will have time at the end of this to answer any questions that you may have, and they're able to provide additional details for you. So at this point, Mayor Larson, take it away.
Great. Kate, thank you so much. I know this is a challenge for all of us to find a way to make communication and engagement work differently. And so I really appreciate the time and thought that you and all of everyone on the call has made possible for us to continue to communicate today. We have so much to talk about, actually. And so today I'm going to spend time outlining several decisions and announcements that we have made. I'm also just going to set the stage with some information that you can expect to see and hear from the City of Duluth in the coming weeks. And to begin, I just want to thank our team and our staff at the city who are remarkable. We are, like you, working from home, struggling to make it all happen. My husband's here, my kids are here, everything's happening in my house too, in the way that it's all happening with yours. That's the same with all of our leadership team. And so just want to thank everybody who works for the City of Duluth, who are showing up every day, whether they're showing up at home or showing up at work. So with that, actually, I want to start by talking just a tiny bit about the budget. I think at the next council meeting next Monday, Chief Administrative Officer Noah Shuckman and/or I will provide a little more of a budget overview about where we are as it relates to COVID-19. But it's important for me that we start laying the foundation with you, and we're getting a ton of calls about this. So I just have two very quick slides. And Kate, since you have access to that, I don't know if you're willing to pull up that first slide that talks about, this is our general fund revenue sources for 2020. This is the approved budget that the council approved, that we worked so hard to put together. And there's two quadrants in there that I want you to pay close attention to. They are at the top of that pie chart. The one that is gray reads property tax. It is around $22 million, and it makes up 24% of our general fund. The one to its right is a blue, kind of a royal blue. It is city sales tax. City sales tax is $14 million, and that makes up 15% of our general fund budget. I think, as many of you know, the city of Duluth has several different budget areas. We have enterprise funds, we have our utilities funds, we have lots of different things. We even have, of course, the fully dedicated streets fund. That's not reflected in here. This is general fund, which goes to pay for most of the services that people think of when they think of the city of Duluth. So that's libraries, public safety, planning, technology, all of the things come from that budget. And so it's really one of the most important budgets that we have. It's $92 million. And Kate, if you're willing to go to the next slide for me, the second budget slide, I want you to see what we are actually measuring for projected shortfalls. And you can see in this area that we rely heavily on that general city 1% sales tax. So 1% sales tax already goes into our general fund. We are anticipating a 20 to 50% shortfall of that general sales tax to us. That can, that range, that shortfall will be a shortfall of $2.8 million to $7 million. These are very conservative numbers. In my thinking, we are actually at the higher end of these percentages rather than the lower end. And I have a few examples I can give before we move on to the next item. The 0.5% sales tax for streets, that fully dedicated street sales tax. I'll talk about our streets program in a minute. We're expecting a major decrease in that. We were anticipating $7 million in that fund. I was going to continue to add the $3 million that we had previously committed to streets for a total of $10 million. However, we will see that the sales tax portion of that decrease quite a bit. Tourism taxes, which of course we rely on heavily both as a sector and industry, and then to support a portion of city operations, in addition to supplying major and needed revenues for all of our tourist attractions. We were predicting about $12 to $13 million this year in tourism taxes. Half of that goes to projects we have bonded for, so the Amsoil Arena, the Spirit Mountain Chalet, things like that. The rest of it goes to Visit Duluth and Glensheen and the zoo and other entities like that. We are projecting a loss of between 50 to 75% of that fund. Property tax delinquencies, we anticipate that people, because of high unemployment, we will have a shortfall in our property tax collections. We anticipate getting property tax collections in May 15th, when we would generally receive somewhere between $12 to $15 million. We will see much less this year, and we are talking with the county about what they are anticipating, but it will be a pretty significant shortfall. Parks tax levy is kind of the same thing. That's at $5 a month that people had voted on, and we're expecting that to go down. Licenses and permits will also be going down as people change their spending habits and investments in their own properties. With that is inspection fees, parking revenue. So all told, and Kate, I think I'm done with that slide, and thank you so much. All told, what that means for us is upwards, close to, could be $25 million shortfall for the city of Duluth. This is a really significant number. It's one we are tracking closely. It's one we're paying very close attention to. And there's a few other just data points. And again, we will go through this more fully, but I know that budget is where we are starting much of the conversation today about the investments that we're making. The things that I'll be announcing will be pairing our concerns for budget along with our concerns for public health. But as it relates to the budget, it's important to give you a little bit of context. Typically, we collect tourism taxes every month. In January, our tourism tax was actually up 4.5% over the previous year. So we were excited. That was a really good start to the year. February, our tourism tax collections were down 26%. So in the period of a month, that's some of what happens. And that is, it was expected based on what we were knowing and understanding about the coronavirus, but a very immediate financial impact for the city of Duluth. So we also anticipate that there are costs incurred to some of the policies that are being passed on the state and federal level. I'll talk about that later on, and you'll also hear from CAO Shuckman a little bit too. So that's the context for budgets. And so it's going to be a difficult budget year. We are tracking legislation that's pending on the federal level to support cities and states and counties and local units of government with some of these budget shortfalls. At this point, the bill that includes a provision that would be helpful for the city of Duluth is not moving forward. So again, we are in a position where we will face those financial decisions on our own, and we will face them. We will make the decisions we need to make, and we will get to the other side financially of COVID-19. However, there is some good news, because a few years ago, the state gave us permission for that dedicated sales tax for streets. We began collecting that. It went into effect October 1st of last year. So we actually started collecting sales tax for this year's streets program at the end of the construction season last year. What that means is that we do have money to have a streets program this year. We had anticipated and built a $10 million streets program that had a mix of mill and overlay, of full reconstruction, of several different kinds of very expensive projects that were scattered citywide. We anticipated getting 18 miles of value for our residents in the city of Duluth. We have since gone back to the drawing board. And Kate, I'm not sure if we have that slide of streets projects, but we have gone back to the drawing board. We are going to be investing $6.85 million in streets. That is a large portion of what was collected at the tail end of last year, plus that $3 million that I talked about earlier that I promised we would dedicate to streets. So it brings us a total of $6.85 million, still far ahead of where we have been in past years, not what we had wanted to work on. So we will be doing 16.7 miles of street work this year. Again, far more than we've ever gotten done, or at least that we've gotten done in many, many years. This does include 1.91 miles of federal and state funded work. It is 14.79 miles of city street sales tax funded projects. And those are the projects in blue on that map in front of you. It includes 34 projects that will take place equally across Duluth. Geographic equity has been really important to us. Construction's already started on 2 projects. That includes phase 3 of Superior Street reconstruction, which I know many of you have been tracking already, and then Decker Road. And construction's going to start in the coming weeks on other projects. We're also waiting. A lot of people think it's a great time to get street work done because no one's on the road. Part of that is true, and we have workers who are skilled and ready to do that. We have to wait for the hot plant mix to open up and the other things that makes street work possible. So there is some great news. And the good news is that when we have dedicated sources of revenue, we get to use them for their dedicated source. So again, that is not money that I or the council or anyone else can go in and use for any other thing. We can't use it to support libraries. We can't use it to support public safety. We get to use it for streets. And we'll be delivering a lot of value for you this year. We have another really exciting announcement. We understand that with 4,500 students who are home from the public schools, many hundreds of other students home from charter and private schools, families are needing more and more than ever resources to support them. We have thousands of people unemployed in this community who can no longer go out and afford new books. And we have a library that has resources, and we have talented staff at the library who want to be of service. So beginning next week, we will start curbside library service. And here's how that will work. A lot of you have been asking about it, and I really appreciate it. Our team has done such a great job of making sure that we are doing online story times and connecting with people and doing scavenger hunts and all the things with our learners in their homes. But it's important to us that we get materials in your hands. So beginning Monday, April 27th, The Duluth Public Library will begin a curbside service. All requested items will be available for pickup at the downtown main library. You can request materials by using the online catalog at www.duluthlibrary.org. You can request materials by calling 218-730-4200 between 9 a.m. and noon and between 1 and 5 p.m. on Monday through Friday. And then once you put your order in, an appointment will be scheduled for curbside pickup Monday through Friday. And there will be no physical contact between library staff and patrons. So it will be delivered to your car, near your car. You will show ID of some kind, and we will work that out. During the curbside pickup, only items on the shelf at one of the Duluth Public Library will be made available to you, because we are not actually collecting books in the same way now, because we want people, we don't have fines, but we also know that coronavirus can live on materials. So we're being very careful about how we recycle those materials right now. Patrons can have up to 10 items on a card. And if you have e-access temporary card, you are still able to request 5 items. So this is a really exciting development. I really want to thank our library staff, because they are, coming forward and working hard so that you can have the materials that you need. I know a lot of parents and adults who are ready to get new materials. So Curbside Library, it starts next week. You can start making your requests this week. We have some announcements as it relates to parks, and we are making some changes to our 2020 operations for some parks facilities this year. This includes Duluth Golf. It includes Lake Superior Zoo, the Park Point Beach House, and Wade Stadium. These changes are designed to prevent disease transmission per federal and state guidelines, to preserve the city's financial capacity to maintain all of our essential services, and preserve the possibility that Duluth residents may be able to enjoy some traditional summertime activities this year. I'm not ready to cancel summer yet. And I don't think you are either. I don't think people who want to visit and love Duluth are ready to have summer canceled. So here's what we're going to do. Lake Superior Zoo, the Park Point Beach House, and Wade Stadium will remain closed to the public until July 1st. On or after July 1st, each facility may reopen to the public with 2 conditions. The first condition is that the City of Duluth approves a pandemic operations plan that details how the facility operator will adapt normal operations to prevent disease transmission. And the second requirement is that the City of Duluth determines that the city's able to support adapted operations as proposed without sacrificing further the city's finances. So again, this is making the assumption that we will move a little further forward in a positive way with our budget and be able to provide some of those services. For instance, providing life-saving support at the Park Point Beach House costs $75,000 a year through the tourism tax fund. So when we're seeing collections go down so far, so fast, there are services that are at risk. And so that's some of what we're monitoring. In alignment with the state of Minnesota's announcement to lift the prohibition of golf courses last week, the City of Duluth intends to open Enger Park Golf Course, pending a review of its pandemic operations plan and financial feasibility to be able to operate safely and with responsibility. With that said, we plan to open the Enger driving range on Wednesday or Thursday of this week and open the first 18 holes on Friday. Now, we don't typically open until May, our golf. So we're really excited that our team could get things ready and get Enger turned around and ready for people to get out and socially distance and be outside. But it is important for you to know that for budgetary reasons, the city does not intend to open Lester Park Golf Course in 2020. And I recognize that that will be a disappointment for some of our users. The typical $150,000 per year loss that's incurred by Duluth's golf program has been covered by that same general fund pie chart I showed you at the beginning of this presentation that has to also pay for resources like police and fire and streets. So to preserve all of our essential services, we're being very intentional about how we are investing and being very cautious on the commitments that we can make. This is one of the first announcements that I think will start impacting people in a very personal way. There will be many to come. I know that because I know the decisions that are likely ahead of us. Reducing 2020 golf operations from 2 courses to 1 is one of the best ways that we can preserve golf at all and to manage a budget at the same time. So this is just one of the many announcements that we'll be making to try to preserve our general fund and also preserve essential services. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break. We have 2 business updates to provide. Councilor Forsman is going to speak first about the 1200 fund, and then I'll be back to talk about DETA.
Well, thank you, Mayor Larson. Everybody hear me okay? Awesome. Well, good afternoon. It's great to see many of you in the chat. I hope you and your families are well. As you know, I serve on the Duluth City Council, and I also serve in the capacity of a board member on the 1200 Fund. And today it's my honor to speak on behalf of the board to announce a new program to help support Duluth small businesses and local economy. The 1200 Fund is a private nonprofit organization dedicated to economic development and job growth in the city of Duluth. It was originally established with a mission to create 1,200 new jobs in Duluth under the leadership of former Mayor John Fido during the challenging economic times of the 1980s. Now in 2020, we obviously find ourselves in unprecedented times where federal and state programs have been rolled out to preserve as many jobs and small businesses as possible across the country. But there's still more to be done, and we believe that bold local action is necessary to further aid the heartbeat of our economy, the small businesses here in Duluth. To that end, the 1200 Fund is announcing today the creation of the $1.2 million 2020 Fast Grants program to support businesses facing economic stress due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Approved by the board last week in partnership with Mayor Larsen's administration, the program will allow for direct grants of $10,000 to small businesses located within Duluth City limits, as well as $20,000 grants to existing 1200 Fund borrowers. The intent of the 2020 Fast Grants program is to provide immediate financial assistance to businesses, including those that have not been successful in obtaining emergency fiscal assistance from the federal or state programs. Businesses must have between 2 and 50 employees, have gross revenues of $5 million or less annually, and demonstrate revenue has been impacted by the pandemic to be eligible. And additional eligibility requirements and a summary of the program is available now at 1200fund.com. We're going to start taking applications for the program starting at 2 p.m. today, and we'll continue to take those applications until 11:59 p.m. on Thursday of this week. Grant awards will be made by the 1200 Funds Board of Directors. Funding for the 2020 Fast Grants program is limited and is likely to be quickly exhausted. We cannot guarantee and certainly anticipate that not all eligible applicants will receive funding. But the 1200 Fund wishes to express our appreciation to city staff, particularly in the planning and economic development area, as well as attorney Steve Overham, who worked hard to create these details in rapid fashion. And through this action, we stand ready to play our part in providing a hand up to Duluth small businesses and help preserve as many jobs as possible during the pandemic, perhaps even 1,200. With that, I'll turn it back over to Mayor Larson.
Thank you, Councilor Forsman. I'm so excited about that hard work of the 1200 Fund. Thank you for being flexible. Thanks for being a great leader in helping to make sure our businesses, small businesses, large businesses, entrepreneurs are getting the support that they need from us. And big thanks to our staff, Chris Pleage, under the direction of Chris Pleage, and in partnership with Adam Fulton and so many others. So that is one announcement, that we have the 1200 Fund, but we have another. We have more that we are doing to partner and support economic development in our businesses here in Duluth in light of COVID-19. On April 22nd, the Duluth Economic Development Authority, DETA, will consider a resolution that would provide $443,000 to the Entrepreneur Fund to establish the Duluth Small Business Emergency Fund. This action will establish the fund to be used to award partially forgivable emergency loans to small businesses between $2,000 and $20,000 at 0.5% interest for up to 5 years, and with with the first 6 months of that time having deferred payments. In addition, DETA will consider a second resolution authorizing a $125,000 grant to the Entrepreneur Fund to access an additional $1 million of other funding sources for Duluth businesses through more traditional lending programs. So we will use our capital to help leverage and capitalize more money, unlock $1 million more even for businesses in Duluth. These two resolutions will be in lieu of the $90,000 that was previously authorized at the DETA special meeting held on April 3rd. So what we have found is we keep learning as we go along, and we authorize one strategy, and now we are rebuilding and authorizing something that we think can be better, more flexible, more reliable, and ready to go for businesses. So both of these actions will require approval by the Duluth City Council, and they would be slated to go before City Council at their meeting on April 27th. So 1,200 Fund, DETA, working together, getting money out to businesses, working with the Entrepreneur Fund, not looking to duplicate anything, but looking to leverage and build upon. It's very, very exciting, and Chris Bleach can help answer any questions you may have at the end of this. I wanted to give a quick update on workforce services. We have thousands of people who have recently lost their jobs. That is really, really scary. I'm proud of the state of Minnesota. I'm proud of our team at the Workforce Center, at the Career Force, who has really worked hard to make sure that every applicant within our area are getting all the benefits that they deserve. Workforce Development has closed its physical doors to the public because of social distancing and health, but continues to serve clients virtually and by phone. So to date, this team has helped process 18,328 unemployment insurance applications in St. Louis County since March 15th. 18,328 versus 800 in the year before. That's the kind of work our team is doing and getting going and turning around for our community. And while a quarter of these applicants work in the food service industry, retail, healthcare, and construction industries have also had large numbers of applicants. So we track all of that so we can turn that data around to the state, so we can track where our other investments need to be in those same industries, same sectors, to help build out future opportunity. Career Force continues to provide virtual services to those who are in need. Phone lines are staffed to help navigate unemployment insurance applications. If you've lost your job or someone you know has, please encourage them to contact Career Force. For those who have been laid off, Career Force has a variety of programs and services that are available to help you consider your next step, whether that's finding a new job in your current field or taking this opportunity to change careers. They really can help, and they really are making a difference. So please reach out to them by calling 218-302-8400, or you could email workforcedevelopment@duluthmn.gov. Now, some of the reason we're able to provide this kind of service is because of policy changes on the state and federal level. Things are happening quickly. There have been several federal legislations that have passed to support and respond to COVID-19. In the same fashion, there have been several things that have happened on the state level. We track that closely. We spend a lot of our time in conversation with the governor's office, with our state delegation, with our federal delegation, with commissioners who are making decisions to help make sure that Duluth's interests are being represented and that we are receiving every ounce of funding to support our residents as we possibly can. I want to give CAO Noah Schuckman a chance just to speak a little bit about some of the relationships and conversations that are happening around the state for the context of which all of this falls in. So welcome, Noah.
Thank you, Mayor. As the mayor said, we are working, department heads and I are working day to day to understand the impact of this on city operations, and I want to thank them, city staff in particular, who have been flexible and creative and good humored as they've gone through some major changes to the way that they do their work. As the mayor mentioned, I have been in touch continuously with other cities throughout the state, Rochester, Minneapolis, and others, as we all figure out how this situation is impacting operations for municipalities around the state. And then certainly The mayor and I are in touch with the state and the county as well. And I'm thankful for all those partnerships. But it is clear that cities throughout the state are facing this in a way that we will need to get best practices information from each other and work together to try to understand what the best way to move forward is.
Few of the specific bills that we're tracking right now: workers' comp, an important bill passed to support city staff who contract COVID-19 on the job. They would receive extended benefits through workers' comp. That is awesome. We really care about our staff. We want that to happen too. And now we are seeking support in partnership with the state to help be a partner in funding that, because, for instance, that comes at a $4 million cost, $3.8 million cost to the city of Duluth when that goes into effect. So there's things like that that we track. We are really excited that the federal CARES Act ensures that people can use FMLA or 80 hours of sick time to take care of their kids and do the other things that they need to do. That comes at a cost to us. And so we are also working on advocating again to ensure that we can get some support and partnership from the federal government to meet some of that growing budget gap that's hitting across many sectors of our budget. So just a couple more announcements, and then we will turn it to you. Each of us works really hard to get rid of, as each of us works to get rid of coronavirus, we do really have to reinforce that viruses don't discriminate. And we feel strongly at the city of Duluth that neither will we. And we each have a role in making sure that people are safe and healthy and free from discrimination. Our Indigenous and communities of color are strong and resilient and deeply valued members of our Duluth community and worth protecting. You matter, you belong, and we've got you. And we don't want stories and incidents of discrimination just to be anecdotal. If you are experiencing discrimination, please reach out. If you've witnessed any bias or discrimination based on race, gender, ability, please reach out to people who are funding and providing resources that can be helpful for you. That includes the State Discrimination Hotline, which is 1-833-454-0148, and our own Human Rights Officer, Carl Crawford. He can be reached at 218-730-5291 or at humanrights@duluthmn.gov. We are hearing reports, we are tracking it, but we also want to make sure that you are safe. So please reach out for us. We also have a city webpage, a resource webpage that we've worked very hard to update over the past few days. It's got everything on there. If you need support with mental health or chemical dependency, if you need to know more about childcare and outdoor activities, if you need just a sense of how do I respond to coronavirus and what do I really need to be careful of, it is all there. The website is duluthmn.gov/COVID-19. duluthmn.gov/COVID-19. It's a really good one-stop shop information and resource page. So finally, I just want to say that everyone is working hard. We're all trying to do what we can just to survive this and get through it. Some of us have more time or resources to support the community than others. But we also know that giving back is such an important way to feel connected and to feel in support of your community. So we have it's actually National Service Week, and we have 2 opportunities for you to participate. Governor Tim Walz last week announced a statewide mask drive that is going to be done in association with fire stations. So we have 2 opportunities that you can give back here in Duluth this weekend. The first is to be a part of the statewide mask drive that's happening. You can make homemade masks. You can donate ones that you have to any local fire station between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Saturday. In talking with our fire chief and emergency leader, Sean Creuset, our fire department has asked that all masks be put inside Ziploc bags. They are also giving you the chance to say where you would like your mask to be donated. So all masks will be given to local congregate care facilities. If you have a specific place you would like that to be given, you can let us know, and we will make sure that that happens. Write a note with either the name of the facility and put it in the bag, or let the person know when you're giving them where would you like them to go. We'll do our very best to make that happen. and we'll just make sure that all the masks get back out to our local community. Last week, the Twin Ports Mask Brigade handed out over 900 masks to people who need them. So this is a very big need in this community, and we invite you to participate on Saturday. This week is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, Wednesday, April 22nd. And we had been planning a really big cleanup day. This is one of those things that gets set aside for good reason because the pandemic requires us to do that. But we had been planning a really big Keep Duluth Clean citywide cleanup day. We can't do that this year, but we think there's other ways that we can work together to celebrate Earth Day, but also to clean up the parks. Lots of us are outside now safely. And there's a lot that we can do. So we are asking that on Saturday, in a safe and socially distant way, people spend 15, 20, 30 minutes cleaning up their neighborhood. Use your own gloves, your garbage bags, your buckets, your trash, whatever you have. After you clean up, please take a picture, share it with us. We'll be putting out Facebook posts about cleanup this week, but share that photo with us because we have actually, as a special thank you to people who want to do that, Lull Furniture has generously donated 5 lollygagger chairs that everyone who shares their photos can be eligible for. And so you will automatically be entered to win. It's a virtual cleanup that we're offering on Saturday, and it is brought to you by City of Duluth hardworking, amazing, terrific staff in partnership with Keep Duluth Clean, with Lull Design, and Flint Group. And special thanks to Lull Design because you are awesome, and that is so, so great to be able to give those chairs away. So that is the end of my update. And just in summary, this is how hard the city is working right now. We talked about the budget, parks, library, streets, business, economic development, workforce, job seeking, human rights, community engagement, community cleanup. So we are here, we are doing the work that you need us to do. And before we take questions, I just want to thank you. I feel how hard this is. It is really difficult to watch our community go through a hard time. It's hard to not do the things we want to do. I want nothing more than to be able to hug my mom or see my friends. So I really, really understand it. And we are all doing the best we can with what we've got. And I think we need to remember to be patient with ourselves, to be kind and patient with others, because we don't know what people are struggling with. As I said in my op-ed, being home for some of us may be okay, maybe even fun, but for other people, they're really struggling. They're experiencing domestic violence or chemical dependency or mental health issues, unemployment. Maybe they just lost their business. We don't know what's going on with everyone. It's just our job to be the best kind of neighbor that we can. And I do want to say that I have found the leadership of Tim Walz to be steady, to be refreshing, to be in constant and good communication. And I trust him to make decisions on behalf of the state that are in the best interest of everybody. He has not let this community down yet in his service, and I don't see how he possibly would. So while I know the decisions he and his team make about closing things and opening things is difficult, I get that. I also trust it. And I know when I see something on the other side for us, and we will absolutely get there. Even though we talked about things that are hard and we're anticipating hard decisions coming up, we've got a really bright future and we will totally get to the other side. So with that, thanks. That was a lot of talking, a lot of updates, and we're ready for questions.
All right. Hi, everybody. Again, just wanted to, if you're a resident, we're going to be taking questions from the media. If you do have a question and you are a resident in the city of Duluth, please, as a reminder, send us an email at info@duluthmn.gov. And so just looking for questions from members of the media at this time. And you may need to unmute yourself. I'm not seeing any hands up yet. Oh, Katie Galliato, go ahead from the Star Tribune.
Hi guys, thank you. I have a question about, I guess I'm wondering if someone can elaborate on streets a little. I know it sounds like this year you're moving forward with most of your plans, but I'm wondering, I guess, if you could tell us what exactly you decided to maybe delay or scale back on, and I guess if there are any implications for funding streets in the future years. It sounds like this general fund was at 2.5 million. From that, plus what we collected last year is going to get us through this year pretty well. But I guess I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about the future at this point.
Thanks, Katie. I will get Jim Benning to answer that question. Hang on one sec. Jim Benning, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? Mayor Larson, give me a heads up if you can hear me. Okay, good. So we had a number of streets that we had to defer, which means they're going to be put on the top of next year's list. We had really favorable bids this year. So what we put out a bid, what we thought we could afford, and we had really great prices. So we were able to add in some additional streets yet this year, and the remainder of those, there were a handful that will get pushed to 2021, but those will be on the top of next year's list. So some of those residents have been notified that it's going to happen, and we're going to have to re-notify them that they're going to have to wait a year.
Katie, did that answer your question?
Yes. Would it be possible to somehow, I guess, know which streets, or can we look that up somewhere, which streets did get put off till next year?
Yes, I can provide you that information following the press conference. I'll also send out any of the PDFs that were shown throughout this to the media. So I will get a chance, once we get off of this, I'll send that information.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. Okay, Peter Passy, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Mayor Larson, can you tell us, those numbers that you gave us in terms of the shortfalls that you're anticipating in the budget? Can you tell us what are those predicated on? How soon would we be returning to, not staying in our homes in order for those numbers to hold? What kind of a scenario are you looking at here?
So that's really interesting. That's a great question. So what we have done is projected out loss to date, because a lot of those budget numbers are sales taxes happening immediately, right? So like we're looking at that, and then a gradual step out, and Wayne can maybe get you a more exact date. Something like property tax, we are taking advisement from St. Louis County, that is the conveyor of that and the collector of that. And so I don't want to speak for them about the metrics that they use, but they gave us a number around which they believe makes sense for us and what we could expect to collect. We are anticipating, that we will need to continue to make decisions around this budget for this year, which are very different than the ones that we wanted to make or the ones that we intended to make. When we put the budget together, we are also expecting this to have, some lasting impact, that, our next year's budget will also reflect that people will be catching up, that there may be many thousands of people who are currently unemployed who will be called back to work. But it may take a lot of people a long time. And so we have to budget with that kind of conservatism in mind. So that's the kind of the best I can give you now. I can work on getting some more information from Wayne for you, but we don't really have experience with a pandemic. And so we're not clear, like, what is the surefire? We are hearing, like you, we have access to the same information. And though we talk with the Minnesota Department of Health and other commissioners, we all really have the same information, which is that we can expect a surge in June here. And maybe that will shift based on behavior, based on when things open, how long things close. But certainly people are modifying their behaviors at least that long. In the long term, I think that's great, Peter, because we are a tourist-based economy. And I believe that once people feel like they can start moving around again, they're not going to take that big vacation somewhere else. They may not have the money to fly across the country. They may not want to do that right now. They are going to drive to Duluth. They are going to drive to this lake shore, and they are going to remember, something so beautiful right here in their own, state backyard. So I think we'll rebound more quickly than other areas that rely on tourism because of this lake and who we are.
Okay. Catherine Huntley from Fox, you had a question, so I will unmute you. Go ahead.
Hi, I was just wondering, will Enger Park look to open up more than one 18-hole course this year, or do you think we'll just keep it at one 18-hole course?
And so to answer that, let me get you Jim Philby Williams. Hang on one second. Jim, you are unmuted. Go ahead, Jim.
Great, good question. We will ultimately be opening up 27 holes at Enger Park Golf Course. It is typical for us to phase the opening of golf facilities at the outset of the season. And so driving ranges come first, then we open up 18, and fairly soon thereafter, we'll go to 27.
Great, thank you. Catherine, did that answer your question?
Yep, totally, thanks.
Great, yep. Any other questions for the mayor or other city staff at this point? Okay, Katie, go ahead. You have another question?
Oh, nope, sorry. My hand was up from earlier.
Oh, that's okay. Peter, just double checking. Did you have another question?
Yeah, I did have one more question. On the 1200 fund and on the entrepreneur fund dollars that are going to be made available to businesses that are in need, how are those monies going to be? How are those applications going to be evaluated? Is it strictly on the basis of the magnitude of need that businesses have, or do you guys have to do some looking at who's going to survive too? I mean, lenders typically also want to know that they're spending their money, to good use. I mean, to good purpose. And I just am wondering, are you guys just simply looking at the magnitude of need in terms of getting these dollars out the door?
Yeah, great question, Peter. Chris Fleege, are you able to take that question? And if so, I'll unmute you. Chris, are you there?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Peter, that's a good question. For the entrepreneur fund, there will be an application, and I think Eric Forsman talked about it being for me for the 1200 fund. There'll be an application that's available actually right now, and there'll be a scoring for each of the applicants. So, and that'll be a grant program, as Eric talked about. For the DEDA funds, those will be leveraged. They're tied to kind of performance. It's a 5-year loan program, so they get forgiveness of up to 25% if they return back to the performance that they had in the community, before after 2 years, then they're granted that forgiveness at that point. So there is going to be a sorting through of which ones, are probably, better investments. So, I mean, there'll be some vetting that way, but really the emergency loan is really a bridge loan. It's to carry them through, but it is looking at them for the long haul. And, for that program, it'll be probably 30 to 40 recipients are kind of the target for the one loan program. And then for the grant program through Entrepreneur Fund, that will be more widespread, $10,000 to each entity, except for the ones that they've got a history with, then it can be up to 20,000. But no, I mean, clearly there's not going to be enough for everybody. I mean, that's why these funds are going to be exhausted. But again, like Mayor Larson talked about, I think it really does provide some immediate assistance for these businesses, and the team and both boards have worked really hard to try to come up with a program that helps carry them through and preserves as many jobs as possible. So I think we're optimistic, but we certainly are going to have to look more to the feds and the state for additional funding, which we hope will come as well. So.
Great, thank you, Chris. Peter, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I just, for a little bit of clarification though, do you consider it a competitive type of situation with these applications? or is it more about getting in line and having, being able to say this can preserve X number of jobs?
I'd say it'll be both, Peter. I mean, we'll look at both. We anticipate for the 1,200 fund that there'll be way more applicants than we can award, and then also, working with the entrepreneur fund, they've got a lot of tools in the toolbox. They're the entity that is doing the administering the state program as well. So that's why we're really going to be leveraging the entrepreneur fund. And one other thing that wasn't mentioned is that we're also providing $30,000 to Northland Small Business Development Center, which is really counseling, which Entrepreneur Fund will do as well, but really to help businesses position themselves, make good choices to try to preserve what capital that they do have, and when they do begin to restart, that they'll have resources. So we really see that as a real big element to help businesses successfully navigate this. So we'll be, funding another 30,000 there, but I mean, it's a big task, and it's going to be a difficult course for everybody as we navigate this. But so I'd say it's both. Back to your question, is it? It's not first come first serve, but we're going to encourage people to get their applications in, as soon as possible. And like I said, Entrepreneur Fund did a really good job, and I think they put out 44 loans within the first week. So they're tooled up. They're ready to do. Provide service, and in talking with them, assuming all the approvals go forward, they thought about the first week in May, early May, they would be processing those applications for the DEDA funds. So.
Thanks, Chris. Just wanted to make sure that we are on track. I know that the mayor has a press conference later in actually a few minutes, so just wanting to move forward. Dan Crocker from NPR, I know you have had had your hand up for a little bit, so just wanted to let you ask your question. Here you go.
Oh, sorry. And I apologize for the cello in the background. My daughter is practicing. Real quickly, Mayor Larson, you mentioned at the top of the call, just the estimated $25 million budget shortfall. Could you briefly maybe give some guidance on how you plan to deal with that? And specifically, are layoffs or furloughs for city employees on the table?
You want to? Yes, I will answer part of that, but I think Noah may have some answers too. So first of all, Dan, I love hearing, part of the fun of working from home is hearing people's families in the background. So that was actually really sweet. So our plan is to, there are a lot of projects, a lot of things that, for instance, I had a state of the city that was like super, it was going to be great. And had a lot of investments and ideas and projects in mind. There's a lot of things that we are going to be shelving because that's what we do when we need to do this. And, as we communicated to the council last week, we did do some layoffs already of 45 staff that are temporary and substitute employees. So we are starting that process of looking at what we need to be doing internally to make things work differently, make things work better. The thing that's really hard about that is that when people lose their job, when kids are home from school, when all of the things are happening, the city of Duluth still is an essential monopoly of public service, of libraries, of all the things that provide that backdrop and that foundation. And so it becomes a very big challenge to prioritize decreases in any division, but there will certainly be sacrifices across the organization. Noah, did you want to say anything more to that?
No, I would echo that. I think one of the things that our leadership team is really committed to is both preserving to the greatest extent possible city services, and also to the greatest extent possible the people whose jobs make those services possible. And so we are deeply committed to that. But as the mayor has outlined, there are going to be some challenges in being able to do so without some sacrifices. And so we're working hard to make that as minimally impactful as possible.
Thanks, Noah. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to do one final roll call for any additional questions. I'm not seeing any other hands up. other than Peter. I'm just checking this. Oh, sorry, Ron. Hold on 1 second. Okay, Ron, go ahead.
Thank you. Mayor, are there other organizations in the city, say nonprofits, maybe on the tourism side that might have to do without city money this year? Or will this